wish the left would spend a fraction of the time that we spend debating about the best way to protest actually talking about what we're protesting for. Because I think we spend way too much time debating tactics when what we should be debating is strategy. We've proven that we can mobilize millions of people, right? Like we saw that on Saturday, millions of people were on the streets. But you have all these people and then they go home and you're not sure if you've actually made a change. The framework that I really like in order to think about this is called the pillars of power. And basically at its core, it's like the autocratic regime or authoritarians are held up, and they're held up by different pillars, and you can identify them, like the military or the education system or the media. And then you can zoom in more, like more than the media, it's social media. More than social media, it's like X. And then you think strategically. You're like, great, what are the biggest pillars holding up this regime, and what power do we have to actually shift them, change their minds, or topple them altogether? And for Trump, one of the biggest pillars that we've actually identified is big oil. Big oil spends so much money influencing Trump and donating to his campaigns. Like they bankroll that man. But they occupy this interesting position where they're both a big pillar and they're a really weak pillar because they're not popular and there actually could be a huge political liability for Trump. And I think they could be a political liability for a few reasons. One is that autocrats tend to fail because of corruption and infrastructure scandals. Those are often the flashpoints that turn public opinion against them and create uprisings that actually make them fall. Corruption is all about big oil and their way of buying out Trump in exchange for their policies. And infrastructure failure, that is exactly what we're going to see all summer when climate disasters get worse and worse and worse as Trump has cut FEMA. That could be a huge flashpoint against Donald Trump. And that is combined with the fact that environment and climate are some of Trump's weakest issues. So that all of that together means that big oil is one of the pillars that is supporting Trump that is the easiest to topple while also making a really big difference. So how do you actually topple a pillar? Well, with big oil, one of the ways that you can do it is to use protests and to use confrontation to strategically and politically isolate a force so that they become politically toxic and have to move away from politicians. And that is actually cutting off a source of their support. And we've seen this work before, right? Like as a fossil fuel divestment campaigner when I was in college, we found this like old report from the American Petroleum Institute, how they were freaking out about fossil fuel divestment because they were finding that nobody wanted to work for them anymore. And people have done this in the past too. They did this with big tobacco. Sunrise has a 3-year plan to send big oil the way of big tobacco. And I believe that if we're successful, we could lay the foundation for an American democracy that actually works by and for the people. We have a campaign launch called This Wednesday. We have watch parties all across the country. I'm holding one here in St. Paul. And if you want to end this oligarchy, if you want to strategically use protests to actually topple Trump's regime and win a better future for our generation, you should join.